Welcome to the UKIP podcast. My name is Jonathan Wong from UKIP Surrey Heath. Next to me,
Callum Dara from UKIP Canterbury.
Peter Mcilvenna. I work with Lord Pearson in the House of Lords and have done for 4 years, and UKIP's campaign manager for the last 6 months.
So how's the campaign going, Peter?
Well, we're licking our wounds a little bit after European. We had local elections in May and European elections, and it was all going so well. We were polling well. We were polling probably in Europeans. The first poll that came out at 17%. I was like, this is going well. It's a good thing to build on. And then obviously the Brexit party appeared. So they caused us some problems. But politics is a long-term game. And the issues that UKIP are fighting for remain there. And the Brexit party will disappear whenever Brexit is delivered. So UKIP, the 30,000 UKIP members are still there. 500,000 people voted for UKIP and Europeans, and we'll build on that. So, yeah.
Yeah, so...
you were saying about the Brexit party disappearing after Brexit. I mean, considering the polling we're getting out of the Tory leadership election, it might be even sooner. I don't know if you see the polling for Boris. Then for MP-wise, Brexit party got 0.
Yeah.
They got Boris as leader. What do you reckon about that?
Boris had, 140 or something?
Yes,
majority.
he did.
And obviously the Tories are going through their leadership process, and Boris is way ahead, 3 times more than I think Jeremy Hunt was next. So at the moment you've only got Boris and Dominic Raab are really true Brexiteers. Others have talked about having second referendums or delaying Brexit. So I think the whole country is putting their hope in Boris, whether he will deliver.
I think so, definitely.
And I mean, Boris, you never know. He is a big beast. He's going to get people on board.
And you know he's in the lead because the mainstream media is already attacking him, bringing back the letterboxes.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What? Yeah.
We'll stay off letterboxes.
Ironically, it's a great protective clothing for milkshakes.
Yes. Which is another issue.
This is getting cut.
But it is amazing that Boris has done very little media because they think he's the whole package. He's got popularity amongst the grassroots, got popularity amongst the general public, and he's got popularity amongst MPs. So I think they've decided he's going to do it, and he's only done one interview, doesn't want to do live debates, because why would you? If you're a front runner,
if you're already in a winning position, then the less interviews you do, the least mistakes you make.
And Boris makes mistakes sometimes.
Let's see now.
So he's probably going to walk at, I think, 25th of July, I think. They put in place a new leader. And then if Brexit is delivered, 31st of October, which is our next date. We keep getting new dates, but that's the latest one. And if he delivers, and he said he will deliver, and will walk away on a no deal if needs be, then what's the point of the Brexit party? So Nigel has done something quite amazing in British politics. I never thought I would see a party going from nothing to winning a poll in 6 weeks. And he's applied pressure on the Tory party. So well done, we get Brexit, so everyone wins.
Yeah.
So hopefully 31st of October we walk away. But then the Brexit party, they will have served their purpose. And Nigel said he doesn't want to widen it. He didn't want to join the populist groups in Europe because he wanted to keep it purely on Brexit. So we deliver Brexit, we leave, and Nigel goes back to TV work.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, none of the other issues that you keep talking about go away. I mean, that's the fundamental problem I have with it. Because there's a lot of people who say, why don't you just skip ship? Why don't you leave this, that, and the other? I'm like, well, as soon as Brexit's done, they're dead. And none of the other issues disappear.
Yeah.
They're all still there, and that voter base is still there. People have these issues.
Yeah.
So we have plenty of work to grow on this.
Absolutely. Well, and I was at a UKIP London meeting last night. It was actually the AGM for London. And there were 2 people who brought up the issue of the Brexit party, but the overwhelming opinion was that people join UKIP for all different reasons.
Yeah.
I actually joined UKIP for a completely different reason, but I agreed with a lot of the other stuff. I saw what happened in Europe and agreed with all that. It was actually for a completely different reason. But UKIP to me were the party of common sense. They would stand up for issues the other parties would shy away from. And when you vote for UKIP, you'll get a party that will push the envelope on what's right and won't accept what is politically correct. And will say, actually, this is wrong, we're going to call it out as wrong.
Yeah.
And UKIP have been there 27 years, they'll be there for another 27 years.
UKIP is the only party to champion freedom of speech out of all the parties on the British political landscape.
Yeah.
So
should we talk about Joe Brand now?
Oh, perhaps we should.
I mean,
we have to?
We have to.
This is where I feel like this is the perfect example of the fact that UKIP will stay strong on freedom of speech, even when it's at its worst here. I mean, it could be very easy to do what Nigel's done and say, Joe Brand's words are hate speech, let's have a locked up. And I get the pointing out the double standard here. Perfectly fine to do that. But to actually turn around and say that she needs to be jailed or the police need to investigate her for a joke or anything like that, it's like, no. And UKIP's just stood around and said, okay, no. Our faces are going to be the ones melting if this happens, but still we're not going to have you arrested.
All right, we believe in freedom of speech and we believe in blind justice. Yeah, that's the two issues here. The hypocrisy we're highlighting is the lack of media coverage that is fair, because obviously they are partisans, as demonstrated. You can make a similar comment, but depending on which side you're on, they have a very different on-take. They will either defend you or condemn you. So those are the two issues. So I believe that Joe should have the freedoms to say that. Within the context, it was obviously a joke. It wasn't direct incitement of violence, so I wouldn't advocate for her to go to jail, and she should have the freedom to say that. But what we want in a society that you actually be able to say such things.
Because it was comedy. So
it was comedy, whether you agree with it or not, or find it funny or not, because comedy is subjective. Otherwise, you're always conceding ground. Eventually, you've got nothing left to say, because every time, say you're in a room, with three of us, it's easy to not offend either of us. Okay, say you're in a room with 100 people. How easy is that now? 1,000 people, and then the rest of the country, you end up with nothing to say. You know.
My big concern about Jill Brand is she fantasizes about throwing battery acid at people. I mean, they're probably more interested. That's what she. But she said it was a joke. She said, obviously, I'm not going to do it. I'm worried about people at home trying to cut open batteries to get battery acid out of it. That's what I'm worried about. People cutting their fingers.
They're just vandalising their own cars.
It's true.
All the Teslas on the streets are getting vandalised because they want to get the batteries out.
But people are I've been to comedy clubs and you get everything and anything said. But because I guess it was over the radio waves, suddenly it's shock horror. But the same people who are complaining about it, I'm sure, go to comedy clubs and hear anything and everything and accept that and have a good laugh. So why can't you separate comedy from actually real life? You go and you have a laugh and you relax and it's downtime, but you're not actually probably going to carry out what is said because it is a joke.
Well, she shouldn't have apologised.
No, she's backed down. It was a half-hearted apology. But she's worried she would lose her job. She's worried she won't get paid by the BBC.
Like Danny Baker. Makes one joke, disappears. And his is probably a lot less worse than hers, I gotta be honest.
But it does bring us up, I mean, BBC licence fee. I've seen a lot of people putting up to say I'm going to cancel my BBC licence fee because I don't want people necessarily behind you, not just because what you said, but all the stuff. She's so far to the left, and some of the stuff she's come out with is horrendous, and I don't want the BBC. But that's a separate angle. So it's a good excuse to bash the BBC, I think.
You see, that's the thing, right? If you don't believe in the freedom of speech of people you vehemently disagree with, then who should have freedom of speech? Only people you agree with. So I believe she should be. In fact, interestingly, UKIP is the only party that during the UKIP Northern Tour that we actually invited a speaker that left UKIP to explain why they left UKIP. Is because we fully believe that people should make their own decisions based on all the available information. No other party would dare have someone leave the party in anger and go, why don't you come back and tell the rest of the party why you disagree with us, and speak to all the audience, and then the audience ask you questions of why you left the party, why you don't like the party's direction, and perhaps we can find some common ground, or maybe we can go in the direct, or we can consolidate on our positions either way.
We don't turn people into heretics. It's just we disagree on an issue. Let's talk about it.
But one of the reasons because obviously working with Lord Pearson, so I worked in Westminster for a little bit of the time, is going out and talking to other Romaniacs. And you go and you address them because that's how you learn your position, that's how you sharpen your argument, by engaging with the conversation. And they come back with stuff, you think, actually, I hadn't heard that. It's completely barmy, but I haven't heard that. So how do I come back and oppose that point of view? So that's where you sharpen your ideas. So it's always good to hear opposing thoughts.
Well, because otherwise you just reinforcing like an ideological echo chamber. Because if you don't engage with people with the opposite, then it's almost if you don't have enough conviction into your own ideas. It's like, what have you got to be afraid of? You're afraid you'll change your mind? Your loyalty should be to reason.
Exactly.
And as a reasonable person, I reserve the right to change my mind when presented with new information that alters my perspective. That's from Family Guy.
Should we get a little bit into your history then?
Huh?
Should we get a little bit
Yeah,
into
go for it.
Right, so how did you first get involved with UKIP? You said it was just, you saw it as a party of common sense, but there must have been something more.
How did first, I met Gerard. I don't know how I met Lord Pearson. This is going back probably 2007, 2008, met Lord Pearson. 2009 met Gerard through, I actually had worked in a church and we were talking about Islam in the church, trying to engage with it, understand what it was about. And a friend of mine who was well, they call him a mullah, mad mullah. He was an imam, and he became a Christian, had to leave in the Middle East, and he had to flee for his life, all of that stuff. But he introduced me to Gerard and said, actually, we're going to Brussels, Strasbourg, to launch the Charter of Muslim Understanding, which was asking Muslims to sign up to values in Western society and what they would agree with. So actually, we flew down, the three of us flew down and met Gerard and met lots of UKIP MEPs, and they showed us around, and we sat in and watched the voting. And it was unbelievable that you would have, first of all, they'd only have about 20 minutes to go through the legislation getting voted on. So the printers would be printing off reams of paper. They're going through this, trying to understand what they're voting on, coming up with positions on it. And then they go into the chamber and they'd vote. But the person in the front would be calling the legislation. They'd then say those yes or no. And he wouldn't even look up. He'd go, yes, no, no passed. Next one, yes, no, no passed. And people are putting up their hands. And then there'd be shouting order. I can't remember what they shouted, and the comms would be division. I can't remember what they shouted there. And then they'd have to press their buzzers and come up yes, no on the screen. And every time they did it, it went the other way. So they weren't even looking. They didn't actually care. It was not democratic at all. So that was the first time I realized the madness of the system, and then talked to the MEPs and learned actually how corrupt Europe was. And I never realized at that point I had concerns through what I'd read. So that was the first time, 2009, I'd met Gerard, and then got to meet him a few times after that, got to meet Lord Pearson a few times. And then first joined 2014, first joined after going for a job interview with UKIP to work in Brussels. And going through all the job interview went really well, and I was asked, are you a member of UKIP? No. Well, why? I never thought of this. And they thought, well, if you got the job, would you join? I said, yeah. So I went away and joined that day. But
maybe that's smarter, because then they have a new member.
Exactly.
No?
I know. So what you're saying is they bribed you to join.
Actually, the process in Europe took 9 months. They wanted 27 pieces of paperwork. Some of it the UK didn't have. So you had to make it up and then deliver it. And by the time they went through all 27 bits, we just had actually, my wife was then pregnant with a second child, so and weren't going to go to Brussels, and she was saying, "Why do you want to go to Brussels? Brussels is a Brussels hole." Can you say that? Yeah, so like, I'm not going there. So Brussels crazy. It's just ghettoized. I mean, in the European Parliament quarter is lovely, but then you go out into the suburbs and it's horrendous. No one wants to live there.
Well,
so that was why.
Somewhat the same with London, is it not?
To be
Somewhat the same with London, is it not?
Yes, but Brussels is, well, London is getting there. Brussels is what, 25% Muslim? But you've got ghetto societies that are not integrating
really
at all.
Yeah, that's fairly high.
It's the first that will be majority. Paris is about, I think, 18%, 15%. London is maybe 15%.
Right.
But obviously going up. But sorry, back to one point was the thing about political parties. No one thinks joining a political party. You talk to people and they say, I vote for whoever, or you member. No one thinks. So I actually think one of my jobs has been to encourage members to go out and say, actually, tell someone, join the party. Maybe you could have gift memberships. Like they open up their birthday card, you get membership.
You know what? Girlfriend's birthday.
I do know that's actually a prank some people play. Like they'll buy them Communist Party membership just to piss them off.
When's your wife's birthday again?
No.
This is my wife's birthday on Sunday. I might give her a UKIP membership.
It comes with a purple rose.
But it's about people don't want to engage, and that's the problem with society, that they don't engage. I mean, you go back 40 years, Conservative membership was what, 2 million?
Well, it takes a lot of effort
million?
to be politically in tune as well, because most people, they've got get a full-time job, they come home, and then they watch a bit bit of TV, and then they say hello to the wife and have a conversation or dinner, and then they go to sleep. Next day, back to work. Do they really have time to be politically engaged? Unless
I mean, I get that, but it's also a thing of like, if you're sat there looking at a bunch of leaders for each party and you're saying they're all shit, none of them represent me.
Yeah.
I mean, for Christ's sake, like, just if you join a party, you get a vote about who becomes the leader.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to be really politically in tune with these things, just as long as you can figure out who in that party is worthwhile, and then you get a vote on that. So before you even get to the polls to vote for who's going to be representing you at MP level, you can determine who the party leaders are by being a member.
Conservative Party, 160,000 members, so you could get 90,000 people in the country decide who the Prime Minister is. Prime Minister is elected on 90,000 people. Like, wow. So join, you get active, and then UKIP, you can choose leaders regularly.
Yeah, well, in fact, we're about to choose the next leader.
We're in the middle of it,
Yeah, we're in the middle of it. Speaking of which.
Obviously, the nomination have just opened today, so it's open for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So if you want to help the party, say you want to be a candidate and give the party £5,000.
Yeah.
Well, the Conservatives is 150 grand they're asking for the last two. 150,000 for the last two.
Yeah.
So 5 grand's cheap.
Yeah, it's cheap. In fact, we can talk about we are planning to become the most democratic party.
Are we?
Yeah. Well, because we are having members submit policy ideas.
Right.
Yeah. So we are developing a structure where our membership can submit ideas and then they get reviewed, and the more popular ideas will become party manifesto policy with credit given to the members. So stay tuned for that.
No, it is a good idea because we haven't had a process of members proposing policy, and I guess at conference you can have some of that. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out.
Is this? I don't know. Is this become official?
Yeah,
or is
it has.
It's official. It's official.
Right, because I was chatting to a chap at the count in I believe the Paul or whatever. And the idea he came up with, we made was, could we not, because at a conference you get two issues, at least the last one I went to. You can vote on this, you can vote on that, and that's the 2 policy points. Could we not have it through the social media where there's a bunch of issues that get sent to the HQ, and then the social media will put like this issue or that issue, this issue or that issue, and the ones that get the most votes we all vote on.
No, but the problem is you can't vet them because they have to be a membership. So if you just do social media, anyone can vote. So you can have any other party go, we got a load of membership, and they always
have to do it by email.
Yeah, so it has to be done by email, or if we develop some sort of electronic system where you have a login.
I mean, we'll develop it. This is the first stage, and this is engage with members and saying actually, because often people can join a political party and they think, well, I'm just one member, my voice isn't heard. So this gives them a way of engaging. And I hope there is a whole way where we can have putting your ideas forward electronically and then ideally voting electronically and the whole way. But it's the first step in that right direction of engaging people.
Yeah, definitely.
Because there was also one of the problems of national conferences. It's the people who can get there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you live in the middle of nowhere and it's difficult to get to Birmingham.
And wherever you post the conference, you'll have the geographical bias of that specific event that's causing the problem.
Because it's going to be in Newport in September, and although Newport is southwest Wales, it is still quite easy to get to. Road and trains are easy. It's 2 hours from London. You can come down to Birmingham easily. So it's not geographically central, but it is quite easy to get to.
Well, new leader, new venue, new chapter for UKIP.
One hell of a conference, that's going to be short.
Yeah. Oh, and actually, before that, we actually have the regional conference for South East on the the dinner. Pardon?
Plug.
Of course, it's a plug. Absolutely. Of course. I am one of the events team committee.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's on the dinner is on the 12th of July. And then the main conference is that's Friday, and the main conference on the 13th, and so that is actually we've actually got NEC to agree that was going to be one of our major hustings because it's the only regional conference during the election cycle for our leadership election.
And you got that away ahead because other regions have asked if they can have hustings, but it was the Southeast that said conference perfect time unless of a hustings.
No, I think
so. We will actually have all the candidates on the stage.
So what happened is we invited all the candidates, so it will be to their benefit to attend, because if they don't, it will be recorded and edited, and all the content of everything will be put on all the major channels. So it will be on our YouTube, we're on the main Facebook page, and with links on Twitter.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So if they don't attend, then you'll give them a disadvantage. So it's also beneficial for them to bring their followers over. Because during I believe the first break, we haven't finalized details yet. We are we are open for the attendees to submit questions. So we'll vet the questions and we'll ask the same question to all the candidates. So they'll take turn to answer the question.
Yep.
And then we'll show that to the public, as in, what does each individual candidate stand for? What are the policies? What are the principles?
Yep.
If they become a leader, which direction will they lead us? So I think
will they just have a chance to speak, or will we have enough time to go into
it's an hour-long Q&A segment.
Right. Okay. So we'll actually get to see what people actually think, because I mean, this is one of the candidates decide. Which direction should you take ideologically?
Yeah.
And if we don't have enough time to go into that, that's what I was worried about. So I'm actually glad.
Because it's beneficial. Because even if you got a candidate in mind, you can ask a question that he will address or she will address, and then all the other candidates will also answer the question. So it's completely fair and open. So I think it's good transparency.
Looking forward to that,
yeah, I'm quite looking forward to that.
That's good, and it will be telling where candidates want to take.
And it's
party,
bang in the summer. Should be nice weather. And the venue's, literally walking distance from the seaside. So
Eastbourne,
Eastbourne, yeah. Oh, and we got guest speaker Katie Hopkins as well.
Could she chair the Q&A? Should be great.
That'd be fun, yeah. Because that's the Fox News debate they had for the Republican candidates.
Yeah.
I can't remember the lady's name from Fox News, but she's actually quite funny as well. I'm thinking make the British version of that. That's Katie Hopkins.
And she's joining us for dinner on Friday as well on the hosted table. Yeah. And also there is live piano playing from Toby.
Toby?
From Toby. From the Southeast.
He does piano. Okay.
Yeah.
What was the date again?
That's 12. So 12, live piano.
Next month.
Yes.
12th of June.
Yeah, not 2 days ago, obviously.
July.
Yeah. So looking forward to that. The tickets are already on sale, and the links in the description.
But it'd be great having Katie. Katie's fantastic, because I got to know her a little bit on the tour, on the Battle Bus tour, and she's bang on board on all the issues.
Maybe we even convince her to join the party.
Go, absolutely. She could throw her. No, she can't throw her name in the ring because she hasn't been in the party long enough. So
yes,
she has to be 2 years. We can't fast forward that membership. No, she's great, and it'd be great to have her in South East, and she's a big draw. She's a fantastic speaker and bang on board on the issues. And I've heard her speaking at different audiences, and she can gear what she says to the audience. So she's really good.
Okay.
Right. So Peter, tell us about working for Lord Pearson.
Lord Pearson, fantastic. So I've worked with him for probably 4 years, and so many sides of Lord Pearson. So he was first appointed by Margaret Thatcher, actually one of Margaret Thatcher's last appointees in the Lords, 89. And he was appointed because of his role in the insurance industry. So he took Lloyd's of London to court. He was a named member of Lloyd's of London, so I think was his father. And he took Lloyd's of London, was involved in taking them to court because they wanted to write off a ship that was sunk that was full of new cars, an Italian ship. And there seemed to be queries over what had happened, and people were too quick to claim and didn't want to actually salvage it. So he was involved in taking Lloyd's to court over it. He lost, but they changed their business practices immediately after. So they are much more transparent in how they do things now. So Margaret Thatcher saw that and thought, actually, here's someone who will stand up against the system. So she put him in, one of her last appointees in 1989. And he got to know her. So I was up in his place in Scotland just before last conference last year. And it was great talking to him about his relationship with Margaret, and he showed me where she went up there, and all different stories. So it's fantastic. So that's for his first time basically in politics. So he's put in as Conservative peer, 89, stayed with the Conservative Party, and then basically was thrown out. He was one of the rebels in probably 92 maybe. It might have been the Maastricht stuff, and he rebelled. And possibly might have been independent for a while, but then eventually went over and joined UKIP. So came over with Lord Stevens, who was the editor of the Daily Express, and Lord Willoughby de Brooke, whose father was head of ground operations, I think 9th Squadron for Battle of Britain in RAF Hillingdon. So very illustrious. So he joined UKIP and then became UKIP leader 2009 when Nigel stepped down. He actually ran against Gerard Batten, and won that and stayed on for a year. And then Nigel stood again. Nigel took over 2010. But he's a fantastic guy to work with. Very engaging, very loyal. His two big issues have been Europe and Islam. So on Europe, he said he always made the mistake of reading the Lisbon Treaty. He said no one should ever read these things. He read it and realised, actually, this is about taking away our sovereignty.
It's like the terms and conditions when you buy new software and you just go click, 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 and then you realise, okay, it's like that South Park episode, or you know.
Exactly. Well, it should have do not read, do not touch, do not open. So he made the foolish idea of opening it and realising this is horrendous, and no one knew what was happening. So he became one of the rebels because of that. And obviously Islam, the other big issue. And it's funny because on the Eurosceptic side, you may have, the Lords has 850, second biggest legislative chamber after the Chinese. It's huge. Obviously, most of them don't turn up. But they're only at 250 seats or something. So that's usually how many.
You can tell it's a political favour kind of situation where there's not enough seats.
Yes, exactly. Well, it is a lot of by-carrier. It used to be actually rewarded for service to the country, and not just you're my speechwriter, you're my doctor, or whatever, you're my by-carrier.
You donated a lot of money to the Conservative
Nepotism.
Party.
Exactly, the money's the big one. But he's one of maybe 20, probably about 20 Eurosceptics in the Lords out of that 800 odd. But actually, concern of Islam, there may only be half a dozen who would agree with them partly and privately. But he's the only one who will actually speak up and address these things and call every name under the sun.
Oh, he is. I've seen many of clips now, from the House of Lords.
I mean, you get the problem, the demographic changes. You've got women being treated. You've got access to the law. You've got FGN. It goes on and on, segregated communities. And he's shot down for being the messenger and pointing this out.
Look, everything stems down to that we need to impose blind justice and secularism in society. And we need to champion freedom of speech. The combination of those three principles is what can get us through. And that's the problem. We got an uneven application of the law, and we got political correctness restraining freedom of speech because we're saying things that appears to be racist, even though Islam is not a race, obviously.
This is something I saw earlier. I think it was some lefty tweeted out that the solution, it's a big problem that a lot of young men are becoming disenfranchised with political correctness and moving to the right. And it was like, he said that the right thing to do is not to change ourselves, but to try and show them political correctness is good. I was just thinking, for Christ's sake, every report that comes out about the rape gang issues is that political correctness stopped either the police forces or the councillors from doing something. It's like, look, show me the upsides. I mean, the downsides is thousands of girls getting raped. What's the upsides here?
Well, exactly.
And not
what upsets them?
Some people's feelings.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I forgot about the hurt feels.
The hurt feels.
You get hurt feelings. But the time I was shocked at the level of anger which is against him for speaking up on this, and he's lost a lot of good friends because he says this is the problem, we need to address it, and he's go, no, we don't. Is when he stood up and said, we all know that most terrorists are Islamists. He actually used Islamists, not Islamic. And there was, I was there.
Statistically,
we have the data on this. I think it's the last one, the Global Terrorism Index.
Global Terrorism Index.
90% of all terrorist attacks are Islamist or Islamic.
And in fact, an interesting fact is the majority of the perpetrator and the victims are both Muslim. Because different Muslim sects will attack each other. You've got the Sunnis against the Shiites.
The second biggest reason for terrorism is communist extremists.
And funnily enough, the two seem to have an unholy alliance.
But it was the other, you give one stat, the majority, the other one was Philip Davis, MP, asked a question to the government about 4 years ago, and he asked for 3 years worth of data. Those who've been convicted of a terrorism act or act of terrorism, what was their religious affiliation? And it was 85% said they were Muslim.
Is that just for the UK or internationally?
UK. Right. So I think it was something like 2015, 2016, 2017. Each of those 3 years, it was around 85%. So those are the figures in black and white. But he got shouted down. Everyone shouted, shame, shame, sit down, silence, yes.
It was a level of... Put it up, So he gets all this abuse for basically just... I mean, that's a factually true statement.
It is.
The majority of terrorist attacks are caused by Islamists.
It is, yeah. He also...
How can people honestly sit there in the laws? Because I've seen the clip, and they all just start murmuring and saying it's rubbish, it's rubbish.
No.
Do they just not know the data, or are they all just...
The idea is this, hashtag not all.
Hashtag not all.
Yeah, because you can't use the bad minority to draw a larger extrapolation towards the general population. That is the argument.
But these guys, the guys in the Lords, I know they get appointed, but they're not stupid.
So you've got. I wouldn't go that far.
Oh, sorry. Giving too much credit.
You've got a mixture. You've got some people who see the problem and really do want to do something about it. You've got others who see the problem but realise, what do you do about it? And I don't want this to be my problem, so I'm going to ignore it. And others who just are blind and say this multiculturalism, isn't this wonderful?
They call this the activist dilemma, because basically if you're the first one to speak up, you get shot first.
Yeah.
And then a couple of people get shot, but if you all stand up, you win.
Yeah.
So who's going to be brave enough to stand up first?
But there are people who will say to him privately, well done, it's good you're raising this. But then they won't come and back him up on any question.
Exactly.
Douglas Murray has the same thing. I don't know if you've seen him talk about this.
No, I haven't.
But like he'll do an interview, and then the Labour MP he's been debating with, when the cameras are off, will turn around and go, "Thank you, Douglas. We're all on your side, really." It's like,
that's great. I'd love that.
Snitch.
Can we edit that clip in here?
I'm sure I can find the footage of him talking about it, actually.
Excellent.
But even when he's talked about the rape gangs, and he's used, we've gone through and extrapolated the figures out and said, okay, Conservative estimates 250,000 girls have been victims, been raped. But Sarah Campion, Labour MP, talks about 1 million girls in her Daily Mirror interview 2013. So you go this morning, we go to the larger number, and he asked a question about compensation for the victims. And the answer he got, he's worked it out that these girls, if it was just for those girls, 250,000, they get 40 quid compensation. Now, the compensation is for child sexual exploitation. It's the whole thing. It's not just gang rape. It's the whole thing. But 40 quid, is that all a girl is worth for suffering that?
That is cheaper than a prostitute, for goodness sake.
Serious issue here. Like, if they're only giving them 40 quid, I mean, it's not just the rape, obviously. It's the cover-up that's always worse.
Yes.
I mean, the fact that the state, the one with the ability and the duty to protect them and find justice, ignored it. And just wasn't interested.
Yeah, it's miscarried of justice.
40 quid a go.
But that is, if it's 250,000. Let's say Sarah Campion's writes 1 million. That's down, what, 10 quid. But that's just for those. So that's put out to all those victims of sexual violence or whatever. So it's probably down to about £1 or maybe 50p. You trip over a slab on the road and you get 10,000. Yeah. And these girls are they're worth nothing to society, they're ignored. And that's why people like Lord Pearson, UKIP have highlighted this, Lord Pearson pointing this out, saying these girls have no voice in society, they're the lowest according to our political class, so we need to speak up for them, we need to represent them, we need to fight for them and do what's right. And he's just shouted down for this, no response. Baroness Cox had a whole debate. She had a 1-hour question for short debate on these victims' compensation. But again, nothing has happened from that. They discuss it, they very carefully tiptoe around it. Even Brian Pittick, what's his name?
Because I've met Baroness Cox in one of the events for grooming victims of violence.
Yes,
actually, yeah, I've met her.
But he was tiptoeing around and not really addressing it. And let's just call out the issue. Let's engage with it. Let's help these girls. Let's make sure no one is a victim of this evil crime. Instead of making kind of apologising for certain communities let's just deal with it. But Lord Pearson calls this out and has done it regularly, and the government don't want to know, the opposition don't want to know, no one wants to know, because it's a problem you want to ignore and keep quiet about.
And this is exactly what we're trying to say about the Brexit Party. It's not like, this has all still happened, all the people who are still outraged are still there.
Yeah.
As soon as you're gone, well, Brexit doesn't solve all the problems.
No.
We've got to get independent, and then we've got to deal with the UK, because there's no point in being independent if you're going to be run by the same.
What do you say when you visit Rotherham?
How many of you lads work security,
But someone has said to me, what's the point in getting out of the EU if you end up under a caliphate? I wouldn't possibly say that, but others have said that. And I understand where they come from, a concern of addressing an issue, which is a massive issue, but an even bigger one coming down and becoming bigger and bigger every year and not addressing that one.
Look, one of the fundamental reasons that I joined UKIP is because UKIP stands for principles. Whether or not I agree with every single policy is beyond the point. is they stand for principle rather than expediency, where all the other parties they're all cowards. This is the only party that will stand up straight and speak the truth, even though the truth might hurt somebody's feelings.
Yeah.
I mean, people used to see the Green Party as sort of like the influencer for the Labour Party, and UKIP the influencer for the Conservatives.
Yeah.
And the Green Party, as much as I disagree with them on policy, they have stood by their principles.
Yeah,
and ultimately it has paid off for them because the issues they were speaking to haven't gone away.
Yeah.
In fact, they've gotten bigger.
Yeah.
So I do not see why it shouldn't be the same for UKIP and the issues we want to speak about.
Absolutely, and that's why I thought, actually, I love working with Gerard because when Gerard was questioned about some of the decisions he made, he always said, well, because I felt it was the moral thing to do, it was the right thing to do, and you do things because, you don't do things because you want to advance up the career path, you do things because they're right for the country. And actually, you don't get that much in politics of someone just doing it because it's right. Silence. What do you mean it's right? No one understands right and wrong anymore. So
everyone's seen Yes Men and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So as a campaign manager, I mean, you're not just focused on purely issues and policies. You're also talking about the structure of the party, how we do things. Is there anything coming down the line within branches? Any reforms in that direction?
Well, I think part of my responsibility, looking at the results and seeing how we come away at this, has been looking at where branches are strong, where branches are weak. So one of the key things is looking at branches that put a full slate of candidates in the local elections. We get up in Sunderland, they put I think a full slate, and others have as well. So you want to look at how to strengthen those branches. They're doing fantastically well, keep them going. Other branches who maybe didn't put up any candidates, or one or two. So again, those are branches that aren't doing well. So it's about engaging with them and getting them active and finding out why they're not doing well and how to help them. My branch in Ealing, every month we're meeting, discussing ideas, getting people involved, phoning around branch members, letting them know what's happening, keeping them informed of what's happening in the party and in politics generally. So other branches that doesn't happen. So it's a way of getting the information out. I think it's good doing videos like this to let members know what is happening. UKIP member, anyone can watch this, but from my point of view, from UKIP, I want UKIP members to watch this, see what's happening, and think, actually, I agree with some of those issues. I want to really get more involved. And maybe they become a member and never been to a branch meeting, and they watch this and say, actually, I want to get on to my next branch meeting, meet other people who like-minded people, and what can we do together? Because one person can't change much, but you come together as a branch and see what you can do collectively with 100 members in your branch, 200 members in your branch, and really look at how to affect your local area, engage your council, push ideas forward. So it's about people thinking, actually, I'm a member, it's just me, but coming together, that collective, and achieving something. So that's what we want to, the follow on from the both elections is getting members engaged. Part of it is about policy engagement, that's one way, but we want to see how else we can get branches engaged. I'd like to have regional conferences across the whole country. I'd like regions to be able to pay for those, and the way the South East has done is brilliant. So let's go region by region and do a lot of conferences. And I mean, people come together for a Saturday in their area. It's easy and paying for it, and they can meet others. Maybe they wouldn't go along to a national conference, it might be too far away, but a regional one they can get along to. And maybe we could have Katie at every conference. Katie Hoppin would be brilliant. But get a draw in and have that engagement. And that's why it's great for the South East Conference, having the hustings event. And we can see what we can do at other areas to pull people in, make it engaging and interesting.
Yeah, I think we also need to have just slightly more transparent, because a lot of people that I meet through the campaigning event ask us, I'm from this area, who do I contact? So it's not immediately clear who to contact and what they can do for the party. I think we definitely should there is some room for improvement for.
Well, on the website, we need to have you click on your region, all the details coming up.
We need to have a regional,
that's not there.
We need a regional map and a regional map with a contact for each of each region, or at least at a region level. And then the region level can transfer to the local branch.
Regional chairman should be the one handing over the information about branches. I mean, this is the issue I constantly had. So we were trying to contact local branches, and half the websites we were using that was completely out of date. Like the guy had left, or he'd resigned, or he died, or it's like, for God's sake.
Well, that's about doing what we need to do is have a proper social media audit, website audit, and you look at what ones are active, what are not, where the control is. Because the danger is if you have a chairman controlling that social media account, then they move on. Then what happens
it's
to
all
us?
got to be at HQ. So HQ website can show you it.
Yeah.
I
because
actually
stuff,
think
that's the problem.
You can have a series of like the admin accounts could be like a stock account that doesn't actually do anything other than to use to monitor it, and then you just give editorial rights to all the branches, and then therefore you always maintain control, and then obviously everyone in HQ will be able to access those. So even if somebody passed away, unfortunately, like some of the branches, we don't suddenly lose all the information, and there are some consistency in branding in the branches as well, because there's some very huge discrepancy between certain branches at the moment. It makes the party looks ununiformed and disorganized and unprofessional.
A couple of people have talked about doing that and are engaged in that process. So it's something that we need to speed up, and because you don't want to have dormant accounts or accounts pushing stuff for the Brexit. I mean, we've had a few chairmen who've left for the Brexit party.
And not to mention, we've got at least half a dozen pages that's been stolen by the Brexit party.
Like it has the Brexit party logo, and you look at the ad, it's
you can see the history of the party. Because if somebody has the social media access, and then they decide to defect, then that's causing problems to our.
But then I would those people, I'd challenge them as an individual, as a branch. What are you going to do when the Brexit party disappears and Brexit's delivered? So surely you're in politics for something more. There are a few people who are in it just for Brexit, but most people are interested in many other issues, and they want Brexit delivered, but also they want a whole range of other issues.
But it's not the history of UKIP. I mean, you're going back further enough, obviously. Basically, it always was about under Sked and whatnot. It was EU independence, blah, blah, blah. And it was Nigel who just sort of said, no, we have to talk about other issues. Immigration was the big one, obviously. And a lot of people we talked to actually were upset with Nigel in this MEP campaign because he never spoke about immigration. They were like, why is it, has the problem suddenly gone away? No, of course it hasn't. So, we do have to talk about it.
Where we are now in Islam is where we were on immigration. So I think Nigel made the debate on immigration acceptable. He was part of the group that made discussion acceptable. And I think that where we are now on Islam is the same place, that we're trying to make that discussion acceptable. I mean, it's crazy to be Lord Pearson. His whole thing is, can we talk about it? That's all I want to do. So you have to be able to talk about any issue. You should be on the table to discuss.
Absolutely anything.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't believe in like book burning or banning anything. I think things certainly should be age restricted, but they should be open to public. So there's literally nothing under the sun that I would say should be banned. Even if it's terrorist material, they say you should be age restricted with a come warning. But then you're adults. You should be able to read it and make your own decisions and make your own mind. Obviously, if it's something like involves security, such as how to make a bomb or something, then perhaps there's an argument to make. You don't want that kind of dangerous information. But if it's something like, look, the only way if you ban like ideological material, you're just saying you can't make a better argument than you. That's all you're really saying.
Yeah, you've won.
Yeah, it's like, here, take it.
Your opinion is correct.
Yeah, here, take it. I can't beat you in an argument. Take it away.
Literally, your opponents are like, we should set up a world caliphate ruled under Sharia, and if you can't argue against that and win, you shouldn't be a government. I'm sorry.
Exactly. But part of these things, our government thinks the issue is too difficult to address, and they don't know what to do about it, and that's why they want to go away. I mean, part of the Rory Stewart talked all about drug use in prison and violence in prison, and the way it was just run, not by the state but by prisoners in some cases. And he said he wanted to change it. Obviously, he changed jobs and walked away from that. But there are some, and most people criticise him and say this is too big an issue. Don't hang your political career on this. But if you believe something is wrong and want to change it, then why shouldn't you? So to me, actually on that side, I think he was genuine. Obviously he doesn't want Brexit and is messed up on that, but actually saw a problem and said, I'm going to roll my sleeves up and address it. Similar to what Jeremy Hunt did on the NHS. Said, I really want to do, whether he did or not, it's another issue, but saying I want to really put all my energies and make a difference and change something that's good for society.
Right, sorry about the jump cuts.
Literally the EU's fault. Every 30 minutes we have to reset the cameras.
Yeah, this is
ironically it's the EU's fault.
Yeah, this is due to because of text bracketing for camcorders is different from cameras. So unless you pay a higher text bracket, which most camera companies don't do, there is a 30-minute limit. So we have to do a little jump cut. Anyway, so the EU, Peter.
EU. It's. I've learned a lot how to argue and debate on the EU. As I said, I love going around Westminster and engaging with the Romaniacs there. But one of the arguments I always hear is the EU is wonderful because it brought us peace. I said, really? And then you throw back Yugoslavia and the war there, and it's like, oh yeah, well,
Ukraine.
The problem was
Ukraine.
And Ukraine, yeah.
Literally, the entire civil war has been caused by the EU.
Yeah.
Whether or not you like either side of the party,
Yeah.
that was the debate that ended up causing the war.
Yeah. But with Serbia and Bosnia, I mean, the US had to step in, and then they helped fix it. But the argument from the other side is, oh yeah, we need more Europe, more Europe, more EU army that'll fix it.
We need an EU army, which
it.
was supposedly, oh no, that's just fantasy. It's just, that's never going to happen.
It's defense union. Why are you getting it wrong? What do you think that means?
Well, you get peace when we own everything. When there are no enemies left,
Exactly.
there will be peace.
Stop thinking like a German.
But regarding defence, you've got NATO can act. NATO sees the problem and is allowed to act on that. Could you imagine the EU making a decision militarily on how to go in? I mean, if it was Bosnian to go in, we'll send in the army. Okay, let's all have a vote on it, a debate on it, a motion on it. I mean, 28 countries are not going to agree to do that. It's madness.
And I remember when Ukraine started to deteriorate, when the situation, I think it was overthrown and it was starting to become a military situation. And I remember watching Russia Today as a kid, because I was an edgy little kid who liked watching alternative news sites. And Merkel was on TV arguing that NATO and Europe needed to take military action in Ukraine to defend them against Russia. I was like, I'm sorry, I don't want to get drafted and fight the Russians. I know it's a controversial opinion, but this is why I'm so glad they don't actually have any, what is it called when you have, they can't override NATO or anything like this. Because NATO could sit back and go, you're mental, we're not doing that. It's going to be a lot of bleeps in this one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of bleeps. I get the bleeps in already. Not as much as the last one, to be honest. That was a lot of bleeps.
But with defence, I think that they just go back, and if the EU countries actually paid their 2% dues, so they actually had a proper military. And I mean, Germany orders everyone around and doesn't get anywhere near. I think it's 1.1% or something they put into defence. I mean, put in your money and make sure we're all fine. But if they did that, then NATO would function even more effectively. But if you don't give money into the system, it's not going to be able to help you. So,
aren't we one of the few countries that do give their 2%?
Yeah. Although it depends how the 2% is worked out. That it's
kind of
come down and down, and then it's close. So, but yeah, I think there are only maybe 2 other countries that give 2%.
I'm feeling it's like, well, we hired another 1,000 clerical staff to round it up, They're part of the military, I swear.
But 2%, but we don't have much to show for it.
No, we don't.
Yeah, we should ramp it up. UKIP policy, 4% defence spending. I don't know.
Well, no, because I was actually, I don't know if I'm sort of leaking this, but I was speaking with Liz about what policies could we push actually.
You possibly are, but anyway.
No, but one of it was we give, what is it, like 4% of our budget goes to the European Union every year. I think it's something like that.
I have to check.
I believe this is what we calculate. And there was Boris always saying, that, I don't know if legally I'm allowed to say this, but that bus said that we should give it to the NHS.
Yeah,
and
allegedly.
And we were thinking, well, it's a lot of money. What could you actually do with it?
Yeah.
And we looked at petrol, and price of petrol, 125, 130, depending on where you are in the country, per litre. And we calculated you could bring it down to 46 pence a litre if we took all the money we give the EU and get rid of fuel duty, get rid of VAT. The petrol station could still make a profit.
Yeah.
And we'd still have £8 billion left over.
And because the fuel price has gone down, that's a massive boon to all industries.
Yeah.
So our
everything else relies on the fuel.
So we'll suddenly become a lot more able to compete in the global market because our transport is suddenly so much lower.
It's true. Everything becomes
So that actually revives some of the industry by proxy.
Yeah.
But no, imagine literally. I mean, tomorrow UKIP just says, okay, no, we're going to make fuel 46 pence a litre.
Yeah.
One hell of a thing, isn't it? Think about it.
Great.
Look,
living in the Middle East.
What is it in Venezuela? I think it's like 3 pence a litre or something ridiculous.
All right, I'm moving. I'm paying like
Well,
75.
your toilet paper is a different price in
I'm paying
Venezuela.
like 75 quid for a tank, and it's only 45 litres.
I know.
Right, so one of the conversations we had about with the podcast is people seem to think that this is, party policy or something. No, it's really just we're chatting about the issues. If we get people to come on, I mean, we're happy for people to comment and say, let's get this guy on or that guy on. But also one of the things we want to talk about with members was branding. So a lot of questions have been actually raised about the current branding, the logo, things like this. There have been a lot of different redesigns come out, and we're sort of in an opportunity to actually talk about it. And there are going to be some meetings about this, and just, what do you guys think it should be? I mean, there are a few designs. I'm sure we can have them posted somewhere.
Well, they're mostly just modernisation of the current
modernisation,
design.
recolour designs, and
like new chapter, new direction, but it's still the same party, so still recognisable. It's still the pound logo with UKIP on it, but it's just modernising the font type.
Yeah.
So we'd love to hear what you guys think about this.
Because obviously a year ago, I think it was a year ago, 2 years ago, when we looked at rebranding and brought Lenny the Lion, it was going to be Lenny the Lion or a sale. And remember voting on it. The discussion was we need to have something fresh, something new. The flip side is everyone knows the UKIP logo. Everyone. Like it or hate it, everyone knows it. And you don't really want to rush to rebrand because then you lose your slot in there. So if we can freshen it up, absolutely. But I think it's possibly a negative if we just tear it up and start again, because people see it and they don't know. Lenny the Lion, what is that? Is that Frosties? Is it? What is it? No, it's a political party. So you have to put it out once again and say, this is who we are, this is what we're about, but it's completely new. So yeah, I think if there's a way of tweaking it and freshening it up, I think it's better to keep the general theme.
It's got to look the same on the ballot as well. And you get it in black and white on the ballot, you've got to know it's UKIP.
Yeah.
Well, one of the issues is the colour scheme as well, because of the clashing colours, it's quite hard to match yellow and purple with everything else. So one of the ideas is to keep the purple and have it a white or black background. You can go with either way, but it's basically like getting rid of the yellow. That's one of the ideas as well.
I mean, purple's definitely the favourite colour, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
Purple's the new black.
We're purple.
It's actually good. Is it Trevor Phillips who made the Equalities Act, or was it the one who put all the legislation together?
Trevor Phillips headed up the Equality Commission, but he's realised that actually it's just a mess.
I've seen him going around the country trying to fix it now, and I've been trying to get in contact with him, because I think he should sit down with someone. I believe he sat down with Nigel previously, so if we get him to sit down with someone...
I'm sure there's a way, because he said that his concern was Islamophobia and brought that up and used that a lot. But then actually he's come back and said that we have a problem. Every community that comes in begins to adopt the culture over time and become part of the society.
But they do bring
Islam is different. Yeah, but Islam is not, there's something wrong here and we have to understand why. I think, wow. But he can say it because he's black and was head of the... whatever.
It goes back to Richard Dawkins' original definition of the meme. It's like an idea of how basically it's a very strong self-reinforcing meme. So he actually is basically right. Let's think about what the consequences of leaving Islam.
You first, my friend.
Yeah.
So he's very strong at maintaining the ideology within like the consistency of it by not actually having any dilution or anything, any deviation from what is already written, because like Muhammad is the final prophet and nothing new can come after him. It's kind of like that's the final word, and if anyone deviates from that according to the text, is definitely apostasy is punishable by death. So therefore, it's very strong self-reinforcing.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, ideologically, you look at a poster boy for each of the respective religion. You got Buddha, a hippie, Jesus, another hippie, goddamn hippies, and then you got Muhammad. Great.
The literal warlord. I mean, that's what he did with the latter half of his life.
Yes. He was a violent individual, that's true.
And all the peace stuff come before the war stuff. And, people always quote, if you save one man and you're saving the rest of humanity. And then read the next, literally read the next verse. It's like 532 or something. I think that is.
Like unless it's for mischief or...
Yeah, the next one is like, we have to kill them and chop their hands off, It
was the guy who, I believe, it was the guy who beheaded Lee Rigby. He quoted that chapter. And it's like... Look, I mean, I'm sorry, but you read the text, and it says these things.
It's there. That's why people are doing it. And they're saying, why are people doing this? We need to understand. It's written down.
That has absolutely got nothing to do with this.
Best clip I've ever seen is Conservative Party conference just before Mrs. May became leader, where she's quoting her favourite passages from the Quran. I was just like, you have no idea what you're talking about, do you? Like some PA's giving this to you.
Well, Tony Blair said he had it by his bed and he would read every night for peace.
Didn't he said that?
Yes. He read
not even allegedly. Literally.
Wow.
Because I think it was actually George Bush is guilty of this as well. He went to a local mosque and he started quoting a passage.
Yeah.
And I believe it's one where, God, I'm going to get this wrong now, but it was one where he's denouncing violence. But I remember reading the Quran afterwards, and as one does, to find out whether or not it's true.
Yeah.
And the passage he's talking about is there will be peace when the Romans and the Parthians stop fighting one another, except they're both heathens, so they both must die, really. Yeah. It's like, Jesus Christ! like, I can't get the quote because I don't have it to mind, but if you look up the passage that he's talking about, I believe if you just look up George Bush in a mosque, it'll come up. He never went to many.
Whatever country you're on, my friend.
Next week we'll bring our Qurans.
Bible study version week 2. Sorry, Quran study. So one of the things I heard about was actually with, when you apply for jobs, you've got to put protected characteristics. So a friend of mine told me about, he made 2 accounts, one where he said who he was, a straight white male, and one where he lied and, he said he was homosexual, he said he was trans, this, that, and the other. And one of the accounts got a callback. Guess which one? So this is the thing. I mean, if you ever wonder where this stuff's come from, it comes from the Equalities Act. And this is just, story I've heard. Have you got any situations about this with?
Well, I could tick disabled. I can't smell. So that's a protected characteristic, isn't it? So I could tick that as disability. But from Northern Ireland, it's positive discrimination was a term used there because you had, in certain jobs, you had more Protestants in a job than Catholics. So they try and redress that balance. And I know friends who had applied for the job and were the best people for the jobs. Brother-in-law applied to be a photographer with the police, and someone else got it, and it transpired later on that the other person was not necessarily as good as on the photography side, but he was ticked the box, which was a Roman Catholic as opposed to a Protestant. So, and it means you get people in a position who maybe are not necessarily the best person, and therefore the job does not get done as well, and then society will begin to collapse because
there's a perfect legal example about this with the British police. We'll have to get the story in the description or something, but it was a white male policeman, applicant for a police position. I can't remember which, but he was the best qualified for it. He was pretty much overqualified, and they declined him the job, and he couldn't figure out why. So he contacted the lawyer. The lawyer couldn't believe it, so they sued them, and he was found to be wrongfully treated because of his gender and ethnicity by the police force, because they put him down for being a white male. So there is movement on this and legally, but if you actually want to just destroy this whole concept that we should have this oppression Olympics, I mean, you have to get rid of the Equalities Act.
Yeah, because we believe in individualism. Everyone should be like the smallest minority is the individual, and everyone should be treated as an individual rather than identity labels. I want to be treated for, the content of my character. Shock. 2019. I want to be treated for the content of my character and not the color of my skin or any, the sum of my identities.
This is actually a funny story. I mean, this reminds me. I believe it's Somalia. I might have this wrong, but I believe it is. That they actually have the same situation for positive discrimination, so-called, with the different ethnic groups to try and keep some semblance of order, for Somalia. But it's for certain jobs, they could only have certain ethnic groups. And this is even within the government. So it means you just get people who are terrible for the job because they're from the right ethnic group. I mean,
well, also in Northern Ireland, you have the problems. So you're an employer, you're employing 20 people, you're in an area which can be 100% Roman Catholic or 100% Protestant, and you have to employ someone who doesn't fit into that. But there's no one around, so there's no one applying. So what do? If you've got no one applying for the job, but you must take someone else, then what do you set up buses to bus people in to do the jobs? It just gets madness.
One of the major fundamental problems they're trying to address is this. They call it Equalities Act, but in fact, this should be described as the Equities Act. Because they want an equality outcome, not equality opportunity. Because basically, right, let's put it this way. Inequality is a natural consequence of meritocracy, because if they're, you know, you can't have diversity at the same time everyone's identical. It's basically it's oxymoron by definition, right? So, you know, you can't even expect, right, basically to take it from Thomas Sowell, right? You can't expect, right, I'm paraphrasing, you can't even expect two people born of the same household under the same parents to have the equality outcome. How do you expect people with completely different background to the same outcome, right? It's like saying, okay, so white British people eat significantly less rice than Asians. Does it mean the rice industry is racist? Of course not. This is, you know, this is asinine.
We need rice
Think about it, people, you know? And this is the angle they're coming from. It's like some kind of injustice. So you, white man, eat more rice. What? Behave yourself. Look, we stand for freedom and individuals. This is the fundamental difference between us and the commies, because they believe in equality of outcome. Everyone has to have the same result.
This is the thing, because I remember it was Carl telling me about a Lib Dem that went on Good Morning Britain. Said the fundamental thing about liberalism is equality. No, it's not. The fucking communism. Like the fundamental thing about liberalism is liberty.
It's liberty and equality, but equality of opportunity, equality under the law. Sorry, my apology. It's actually equality under the law. But by definition of, I think, affirmative action, that is inequality under the law, because you actually treat it for your demographic group rather than your own action. Yeah. It's like that recent case. Was that lady that wasn't sued for murder when she killed her own child or something?
Oh, the one
because
she was a woman. Did you see this?
Okay, So that is not this is why, right? Yeah. Social justice is by definition injustice. What we want is blind justice, and you know, Lady Justice wear a blindfold precisely for that reason, because they don't see your skin color, and now you want ban quotas. You know, I came to this country to get away from the commies, not to see this place turn into a communist dystopia. You know, give me a break, man.
Advert it was Evening Standard, I remember, about 6 months ago, and they had a full page ad for the police, and they're saying careers in the police force, blah, blah. We particularly welcome applicants from the BAME community. I think, if I report a crime, I don't really care the colour of the person who turns up or whether male or female. I just want them to help solve the crime.
God, could you imagine?
Madness.
Like the police officer turns up to your house and you're like, sorry, wrong race.
Before you go to the household, please check the record and the skin colour of the client.
You'd be lucky to get a police officer to your house. Never mind, I don't care.
This is a diverse crime scene. You're contaminating it.
It's definitely our strength.
So, I mean, my wife would fall under this, but it's the question of like, what the hell does BAME even mean? I mean, I think Jonathan... No, I know the real reason, you know, black, Asian, minority, ethnic. But think about that. I mean, black, Asian,
and minority ethnic.
What the hell does minority mean?
It's just the catch-all bracketing.
Ethnic mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's the catch-all.
Exactly. So it's literally...
It's basically, in other words, it just means anything but white, to be honest.
Yes. You're literally just saying dark skin, which... I'm sorry, but why do you need a special term for that? And it's just to cover up your racism.
And it's the assumption that all of these community and demographics are identical in some way, that you can just label them all together.
Yeah.
It's like everyone is so diverse, except we can label them all together and just whack them in one banner. Done.
And that's why we need to get rid of the Equalities Act.
Exactly. Because we believe in equality.